Balogun will be available to play in the USMNT round of 16 match against Belgium with his one-game red card ban suspended. People kept calling this development extraordinary. My phone was blowing up with everyone saying, how could this possibly happen? And my answer was, well, if you watched Yahoo Sports Daily, you would have seen Taylor Twellman tell you this days ago, that there was a window, there was a moment that this could happen. You said days ago it could happen, but you can't imagine FIFA would do it. What was your reaction when you saw that they did?
Oh boy. I'm 46 years old, so now I'm gullible to everything on the internet. And I thought it was AI. I really did. And I thought someone got me good. I thought someone, because I was literally on with our good friend Jeremy Schaap, getting ready to do sports reporters for ESPN. And I said, Jeremy, there's a report out there that Folarin Balogun's been relieved of his suspension, and it's now over a year. And then I obviously put out a funny picture on Twitter that gained some real traction with Balogun and an Uno reverse card. So, my reaction was, I can't believe it. Now, full disclosure for the listeners and watchers right now, guys, Belgium has appealed this. So, this is unprecedented for me. I don't know where this goes. But as of 5 a.m. Pacific time, which is where I'm at right now, well, I'm in Dallas, sorry, but I'm heading back there. FIFA has all of the information from Belgium and the United States. They haven't guaranteed an answer, but I just find it so interesting that UEFA releases a statement that this is against the game and all of this, when actually your last tournament that you had, UEFA, you actually did the exact same thing for Jude Bellingham. It's crazy how you said it was unprecedented and incomprehensible and unjustifiable when you did the exact same thing. So it's just this game. Listen, I'll be honest with you too. I think it was completely ridiculous that it took this long to get to that answer. I think 24 hours before the game to find out, that's unacceptable. It's got to be within 24 to 36 hours after the game ends, because then you know, okay, this is an appeal process. This is how it works. But for anyone like myself that's been in this game and we all see it, listen, the right decision was made. The wrong process in delivering of that message has happened, and that's why you've got a lot of people up in arms.
You mentioned it. Belgium has now appealed the appeal, which is a lot of appeals for something that everybody told me was not appealable. So where do we go from here? Which side between Belgium and the United States do you think has the advantage in the Balogun situation?
I think Balogun being announced, Caroline, 24 hours before the game, I would be shocked if they turn that again. However, though, I said to you guys, U.S. could appeal based on VAR protocol, but I expected FIFA to not do anything. I got that one wrong. So I don't know. I really don't know this answer. I'll be shocked if Balogun's not playing, though, because the way they handled that appeal process, the messaging, and the delivering of that message, Caroline, that would be a little surprising now, like in 8 hours after that or 12 hours, they said, no, hold on, our appeal, but then we appealed it, and now we do this appeal. You're like, wait a minute, what? He'll play. I'll be shocked if he doesn't.
I need your context and education here. I admit what I don't know, Taylor. How abnormal is it for global politicians to be involved mid-World Cup with attorneys and global leaders all coming into this level of appeal at this time?
People went to jail for the 2018 and 2022 FIFA World Cup rights. What would be the word there? The ability to host the tournament. Excuse me. I mean, we all know that, right? When the United States lost the 2018 World Cup hosting rights to Russia, people then went to jail. Sepp Blatter lost his position. How crazy is it that Sepp Blatter releases a statement yesterday saying how this is so corrupt and all of this? So, Fitz, to answer your question, FIFA and government officials have always been aligned. In the middle of the tournament, No. Uh-uh. Now, in my personal opinion, I think if Trump really impacted this decision, I think he would have been tooting his horn the moment he found out. I really believe that. I do. And so I don't believe that the White House influence was 100% in there. But the moment you release that news, it obviously changes the narrative. And that changes the narrative in a very negative way. And unfortunately, I do believe the United States wins the game tonight. Balogun plays. If not, Balogun scores. That's the only thing people are going to talk about, unfortunately.
You bring up narrative. The narrative is that the United States were the beneficiaries of some corruption by FIFA. Do you agree with that?
Not necessarily, because the VAR protocol was 100% not followed. So whether or not the United States, FIFA, White House, everyone has these discussions, I go back to my initial point of the right decision was made. There was under no circumstance Folarin Balogun should have been red carded. None. None. And so even when you rewatch, and I've watched it now probably 100 times, it goes against a lot of stuff. So I don't think it, but the problem is that any kind of news like this changes, as you said, the narrative. And so that's what people are going to talk about. But when the United States plays tonight, they have to make sure they use the atmosphere to their advantage. They have to make sure they win the game. It was quarterfinals a bust before the tournament started. Now you get a gift that none of us have ever seen before. Take advantage of it. Open the gift and make sure you use the gift. And so now you're playing in a quarterfinal against the winner of Spain, Portugal. Do not take it. You can't lose the game tonight now. And I thought you couldn't lose the game before this. Now you 100% can't lose that game.
Taylor, very few people waste the energy that it takes to hate mediocrity, right? Like if you're just in the middle of the road, you don't get a lot of vitriol. The fact that the entire globe now seems to have some sort of anger towards USMNT, to me, reads as a statement of how good USMNT, like I feel like we finally arrived. If we're good enough to be hated, are we buying that maybe that at least part of this has to be the fact that at least the rest of the world is recognizing our soccer club at this point?
Yes, I would say to a certain extent, yes. The other part is a lot of that is FIFA driven. And the US are just the brunt of this, right? So whenever the FIFA, UEFA, the Olympic Committee, how many times have we seen that in other sports with the Olympics? Whenever they dip their hand in this, it gets just so the United States are the beneficiaries of a decision from FIFA, but now all of the angst and hatred is towards them. I will say this, though. The angst and hatred is not really towards them because they like Folarin Balogun. They like this team. This team is now playing for the right to be in the final 8 countries of the world, something they've only done twice and only once since the turn of the century. So that's where this gets interesting. But Fitz, to answer your question directly, I think a lot of that angst is because of FIFA and the notion that the president of the United States made a phone call. It's not necessarily about the 26 players. I know that's a little different, but the reality is the U.S. also is used to we're used to a little hatred from around the world, and we use that as fuel in every other avenue of life. Now the men need to use it in soccer.
No doubt about that. And look, this situation is not short on narratives and discussion points, but since we have you, I do want you to flex your X's and O's brain a little bit. Put me into the mind of Belgium. They have been strategizing to not play Balogun. Now they will be facing the U.S. as leading goal scorer in this World Cup. How does that change their process? How much does that disrupt things getting the news 48 hours before the game?
It disrupts things because they just want to complain about something. But you're asking me X's and O's. It doesn't change anything. It really doesn't. Now, it means the number 9 is a little bit of a better form than whether it was Wright or Pepe or even Christian Pulisic. But the reality is that Belgium was going to play one way only. And that is not in a low block, which the United States have had 3 of their 4 games so far. So this game's going to be a team that believes they're better with the ball. This is a team that beat the United States, if I'm not mistaken, 5-2 in March, but that team didn't have Adams, Richards, Dest. So to me, that game doesn't really mean anything because of the way the United States are playing and the starters that they have. But this is interesting. The biggest storyline, and I think your viewers would appreciate this, is that 2014 World Cup, the United States lost to Belgium in the round of 16. Tim Howard set a record for the World Cup game, most saves in that game, 16. And Dempsey and Wondolowski had chances in that game. They both missed. And if they won, they would have played Messi and Argentina. Why do I bring that up? When you talk to Weston McKennie, Tyler Adams, Christian Pulisic, Chris Richards, Balogun, and some of these others, that game was monumental in their motivation. That was 12 years ago. So they are in the middle, what are they, 14, 13, 12, 16, whatever that age, right in the middle of their development. And that motivated, they all have mentioned that game being their motivating factor to do something different. How apropos is it 12 years later? That's who you're playing. In Seattle, which will be the best home crowd in the history of a United States men's game. I see that stadium time and time again filled up with Seattle Sounders. They deliver every single time. 2019 MLS Cup, maybe the loudest atmosphere in the history of MLS Cup. This stadium and atmosphere will be unlike anything they've seen. And I just think that energy, that emotional context of attaching yourself to your opposition, while Belgium's been listening to plaudits of, well, you beat this team in 2014. You absolutely hammered this team in March. They need to be reminded they're on the road. And I think they will be.
Speaking of emotion, it was all on display last night. England, Mexico could not have been more incredible. Talk about up to the hype. In fact, the fact that England wins after playing much of the second half down a man.
Yeah.
What did you make of the effort, particularly from Harry Kane and from that incredible England squad?
That was the best game of the World Cup. And I know Argentina and Cape Verde were really, really good. That was great. That felt like a heavyweight fight. And the fact is that Mexico only had one shot after England went down a man and had 84% possession is truly remarkable. I thought Jude Bellingham was massive. Massive. The type of performance that puts you in the upper echelon of the players around the world. Not only did he score 2 goals, but his defensive effort at the other end, right before halftime, that was huge. It was Fitz. It was the best game of the tournament. And listen, I've been in that building. I've played in that building. Azteca is as overwhelming as any building in the world. And for that to be a home World Cup game with Mexico, under the lights, rain delay, all of it, it was good. It was as good as it gets.
Mexico was not the only ones to go down yesterday. Brazil goes down too in an absolute thriller. Erling Haaland scored a brace of ruthless goals and Norway advances. How many players are playing better than Erling Haaland right now globally?
Ooh, that's a good one. Better's kind of... Wow. I would say maybe 2, and they're all 3 in the Golden Boot race, but I don't know. I don't know that. I will say this. I'm not sure anyone's been more effective. I mean, Norway had 7 goals in their history in World Cups. He's got 7 in this tournament. Now, I will say this, but 5 days ago, I said the team that I think will be upset is Brazil. Now, it's more about Brazil than it is about Norway. And you're asking me about Erling Haaland, so I'll finish that point first. He averages in the last 14 games with Norway 1.9 goals a game. He's almost averaging 2 goals a game. That's unlike anything I've ever seen. And it's not as if he has a ton of touches, guys. There's not a lot of touches here. There's not a lot of, we play the game through him like you do with a Messi. even to a point like you do with Mbappe. Erling Haaland is just an absolute killer. And when it gets into the final 25 yards, he'll win that battle. So all Norway is trying to do is give their guy a chance. And they gave them a chance by saving a penalty kick, by really absorbing some pressure against Brazil, the anxiety of that building in New York. Now it's on the shoulders of Brazil. And who wins an unbelievable header in the air and then buries the ball to finish with his second goal? He was brilliant. But Norway was brilliant. There is a cohesiveness within that group that reminds me, and Zlatan said this on the broadcast, another Scandinavian team in the United States, 1994 Sweden national team. And they got to the semifinal. Norway against England in Miami for a quarterfinal. Holy cow. Erling Haaland against guys that he has terrorized in the Premier League. Good luck trying to stop that guy right now.